Joseph Story was an Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court from 1811 until his death in 1845. If you do an internet search on him, you'll find a lot of information. What you won't find, however, unless you know where to look, is the connection that Story drew between a Vatican papal document issued by Pope Alexander VI in 1493 and the property system of the United States. Story made that connection in Book 1 of his Commentaries on the Constitution of the United States, published in 1833. In Chapter 1 of Book 1 of his Commentaries, Story paraphrases the opening of an 1823 U.S. Supreme Court ruling titled Johnson v. McIntosh, which he helped to decide, a ruling that was written by his best friend, Chief Justice John Marshall. Story titled Chapter 1 of his Commentaries Origin of the Title to Territory of the Colonies. The following is a comparison between Story's words and the words of Marshall in the Johnson v. McIntosh decision. In the Johnson ruling, Chief Justice Marshall opened with the following words: "On the discovery of this immense continent, the great nations of Europe were eager to appropriate to themselves so much of it as they could respectively acquire." In his Commentaries on the Constitution of the United States, Story opened with the following words: "The discovery of the continent of America by Columbus in the 15th century awakened the attention of all the maritime states of Europe." In the Johnson ruling, Marshall continued by saying that the continent's vast extent offered an ample field to the ambition and enterprise of all. Story continued in his Commentaries with regard to ambition and enterprise by saying, quote, "Stimulated by the love of glory, and still more by the hope of gain and dominion, many of them early embarked in adventurous enterprises, the object of which was to found colonies, or to search for precious metals, or to exchange the products and manufactures of the old world for whatever was most valuable and attractive in the new." In the Johnson ruling, Marshall said that the character and religion of the continent's native inhabitants afforded an apology for considering them to be a people over whom the superior genius of Europe might claim an ascendancy. According to Webster's Third New International Dictionary, the word ascendancy means controlling influence, governing power, domination. Whereas Marshall used the phrase the superior genius of Europe in the Johnson ruling, in his Commentaries on the Constitution, Story wrote that the Indians were bound to yield to the superior genius of Europe, and he went on to say that by exchanging their wild and debasing habits for civilization and Christianity, the Indians were deemed to gain more than an equivalent for every sacrifice and suffering. Story then wrote, "The papal authority, too, was brought in aid of these great designs." Story said that Pope Alexander VI had issued a document for the purpose of overthrowing heathenism and propagating the Catholic religion, at which point he placed footnote number 7, where he quoted from the Latin version of the papal bull of 1493. Story went on to write, "Alexander VI, by a bull issued in 1493, granted to the Crown of Castile the whole of the immense territory then discovered or to be discovered between the poles, so far as it was not then possessed by any Christian prince." Next, Story wrote the phrase, "the principle then," meaning a principle found in the papal bull, that discovery gave title to the government, by whose subjects or by whose authority it was made, against all other European governments. That sentence written by Story is identical to a sentence that Chief Justice Marshall included in the Johnson ruling. "This principle was," wrote Marshall, "that discovery gave title to the government by whose subjects or by whose authority it was made, against all other European governments." In his Commentaries on the Constitution of the United States, Supreme Court Justice Joseph Story provided evidence that the principle of discovery that Chief Justice Marshall and the U.S. Supreme Court used as the basis for the Johnson ruling is traced to and derived from the language of domination found in the papal decrees issued by Pope Alexander VI in 1493.